everyone. Today I was going to take you through part 3 of the build of the black coach. Well, before we start, sorry it's taken so long to get to this part. To be quite frank, in this heat wave we've got right now in the UK, it's just been too hot to paint, so I left it a while, but I really need to get on with this, enjoying it, need to get it finished, and I did promise that next video. So the challenge today is to get through the Cairn Wraith. I'm using those two options for the Cairn Wraith in with the black coach. The one here with just his arms out, but I preferred the one with the whip here and with the scythe. So this is the one that I'm going to be doing, just to add to the black coach. And as I said, in this painting one, I'm going to be concentrating on the greens, matching in with the other elements that I've got on my Nighthaunt army. So the greens just on the cloth at the bottom here, and doing the brown leather as the cloak around him. So I'll do all of those bits and pieces. Like in the other videos, I'm just going to do a little bit at a time, then catch up, stop the video, catch up, and then get on to the next sections in several different parts. So this will be adding on. The actual coach itself has come quite a long way, so it'll be great to have the Cairn Wraith on it. So following on, I've attached all the horses now to the coach itself. Got all the flames done underneath, and I've done the spirits that are hanging on to it. So the coach is there, just really needs the Cairn Wraith and then the basing to go. So looking forward to doing it all. Need to get this Cairn Wraith done for you. So sit back, watch the video, hope you enjoy. Okay, so we've got the Cairn Wraith here ready to start with those bottom colours on there. One of the things that I use here is wet palette, and I use that to get different grades of the paints. I'm going to do the green part on the bottom here first. Now I do this in 3 different layers. The first thing I'm going to do is paint all over that bottom with this one here, Nihilakh Oxide. It's a technical paint, but going on, this is what I want as my mid colour to get that gradient through from dark, mid to light. But I'm going to paint the whole of that area with this colour. Get it nice and thick. It's quite a watery paint as a technical one. It's not really meant as a base colour, but it is the perfect colour for what I want. So what I will do is paint the whole thing, let it dry, paint the whole thing. This will take quite a few layers to get that solid colour all the way on that base part. So I'll do a bit and then I'll get it to dry, and I'll come back to you once I've got that full colour. Okay, so I've got that oxide colour done. I put 4 layers on in the end to get a nice solid coat of that one colour. The next thing that I will do is get the darker shade put in. So I've already put some of that colour on my wet palette. I use the Kabalite green from C-Citadel. And the first thing I'm going to do is just to start bringing some of that colour in from the top and drag it down onto the model. So just bringing that down there. And this is just to start getting that colour on to start with. You need quite a few coats like this to get the colour over the other one, to make it look nice and dark. So bring it up your model, put it up to the top, just so that the actual pooling happens at the top, because you want that darker shade right at the top of the edge here. So going all the way around, keeping on, bringing it up from about a third of the way up. Keep going around the model like so. Once you've got, it's not quite there for how I want it yet, and I will be going on it several times, but once you've got a good transition of colour between the mid colour and the dark, you can start shading one into the other. But I'm going to get that deep colour on there first, and then I'll start showing you how I tend to do the shading on these models to get that contrast, because I don't want a stark line on it. I want it to graduate through one into the other. So I'll finish this part off and then I'll be back with you in a minute. Right, as you can see, I've got that darker Kabalite green colour on to the top part of the model now. But what I've done at the minute is got quite a harsh line where that dark goes into the light, as you can see there. it's not ideal. That's not what we want at all. We want some kind of graduation. So how I do that graduation is to merge the two colours. So on my palette here, this is the Oxide colour, and I've watered that down quite considerably into there to make a much lighter wash glaze type colour there. I've done the same with the blue, with the the Kabalite green, is put a watered down amount into here and getting that really quite watery. You want it to be really quite thin. So what I'm going to do now is I start moving this light one and dragging it down through the dark colour onto the light. So merge the two colours together, and you'll need to do this quite a few times. Ideal is to have a hairdryer to hand. I'm just going to take it off camera a minute to dry that first part of moving it around. You'll need to do that several times. Bring in the light part, go down through from the dark into the light, pulling that colour down. So you'll start to see a graduation of that colour, and it takes quite a few times to go over that to bring that colour down. Once you've done some of bringing the colour down, graduate and alternate between the dark colour, take it from the mid colour up to the lighter one, and from the lighter one up to the darker one, sorry. So move the colours in between the two shades. Kind of done a bit of wet blending here, but I tend to dry the colours in between each layer just to start getting that graduation right. So I'm going to go off camera to carry on with that graduation, because you don't want to hear my hairdryer continuously going off, and I'll come back once I've got those two colours blended. Okay, so I've pretty much finished that blending part now for bringing that dark at the top and then going into the mid colour. So like I said, backwards and forwards, dragging the dark colour through the mid into the dark to make sure it's the darkest point pulling at the top, and then the mid colour, bring it down through the dark into the mid over and over again, dry in between, keep going through that until you get that nice blend, and that works rather well. So the next part, I want the third colour into there, which is the really light colour at the bottom part of the cloak here. So I use Ulthuen grey. So bring in that light colour, it's a really nice one. White is really quite stark. This is pretty much white, but it has just got that tinge of grey to it. So it makes it a nice softer colour. So again, what I've done is get some of that on the wet palette and start bringing that colour in just at the bottom part of that cloak. Again, get a nice solid colour on that bottom, and then what we start doing is merging the light colour into the mid colour, the same as we did before with that dark and mid. So you've got that graduation between the two. So I'm going to carry on, get all of this grey on there to give a nice thick coat at the bottom of the clothing here, and then I'm going to do the blending and I'll come back when that bit's finished. Right, so I've now done that Ulthuen grey at the bottom and melded that in with blending into the mid-range colour, so we can now see the actual colour going from the darkest point all the way through to the lightest point at the bottom, and that's how I tend to get that gradient. So the next part I'm going to do is this cloak part, and I like those ones to be leather, so this is how I've done the rest of the army. And the colours I use for that as a base colour is Rhinox hide. I find that gives a really nice deep colour for a leather base, and then I will highlight on the edges here, just on the creases and the high points, with Mournfang brown. So again, bringing in that Rhinox hide, I just want to get a really nice all over colour of the Rhinox hide. Probably do 2 or 3 coats of this just to make it a nice solid base. So again, I'm going to go off camera. I'll come back once I finish that base colour all over the model. Right, I've now got that Rhinox hide. I put about 3 layers on there to get a nice solid coat on there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I've got my Mournfang brown, put a bit of water to it, get that nice and thin, and then start just highlighting down some of those ridges. So where you've got the creases, the high points of the creases, just bring a lighter colour, so you've got some kind of shade variance there. So I will go again all over there, now picking out those high points. It would not be just a single colour. You've got variation of light where, especially at the top, the light of whatever day, or even moonlight, I suppose, with these ones, would be picking out that in a lighter highlighted colour on the top parts of it. And what I will do is I blend from this Mournfang, I blend the Rhinox, again the same blending as down here, bring that light that's right at the top of the model here into the darker shades to get that nice blend movement that we've got here. As you can see, I've now got a line that will change. Okay, so we will get that nice and done. Okay, so first of all, many apologies for that huge great bang in that last little snip. That one of the wind caught a door behind me and slammed it shut. We're all good, so there we go, to carry on. So what I've done is I've done the lighter shade, I'm not sure if you can see it well enough there, the lighter shade on the top using that Mournfang brown, and I've blended it into the Rhinox hide. I've also done some edge highlighting just to bring out the edges of that cloak to give them a little bit more definition. The next thing I'm going to do is the skeletal arms, and I've done that in exactly the same way as before. I use Ivory, just finding the Ivory, doing the Ivory on that bone, then use some Seraphim Sepia to give it a little bit of wash on there, and then highlight again with the Ivory just over the top of that, just to make sure that you get those bones standing out. And this one has just a mask, there is no skeletal face, so I'll be doing that a slightly different colour afterwards. So I'm just going to get these hands, arms, just done in the Ivory colour, Seraphim Sepia it down, and then come back to the Ivory just to highlight again afterwards. Okay. Okay, so I finished the arms with the Ivory, Seraphim Sepia, and then Ivory again. Both arms are done. While I had the Ivory out, I painted up the whip here with just a plain Ivory because I want to bring that into the green pattern that I used for the flames. So flaming whip. So that's what I'm going to do there. I also painted the pennant from here as an Ivory as well, because then as a good base colour so that I can put whatever colour I want on there. I will probably bring in the greens as well. There's one thing that I would say when I try to paint, I try to keep a very simple colour palette. If you paint with loads of colours, you know, for me, I think it ends up looking, the model looks like a rainbow. And if that's what you're intending, that's great. But for these guys, definitely not for me. So the next parts on this model that I'm going to do now is going to do the mask, and to do that one I'm going to use rough iron. I will also put the rough iron on the blade at the moment of the scythe, but then after I've done that with the mask, there will be a very fine edge highlighting with Stormhost silver, but on the main blade the majority of the colour I will use is plate mail metal. I want a darker colour on here, and I can get that dry brushed onto there really nicely, but still show the rough iron underneath. The mask is pretty defined, so I want some normal colours on that one. And the other thing I'm going to do with the rough iron is do the handle of the whip. So those are the next parts, and I'll be back afterwards. Okay, so I've got the blade done on the scythe, as I said, using that rough iron underneath, and then the plate mail metal on the top of there. I've done the mask and I've done the handle. So the next thing I'm going to do is the handle of the scythe, and I'm going to keep with the black theme. So because I've got the coach, yes, it's called the black coach, so I've done it in black wood. I'm going to use the same for the wooden handle. Keep everything in theme as I go along. So that handle's going to be black, but I'm just going to put a couple of highlights on it afterwards, and the highlights I'm doing is going to be in Celestra Grey. So I'm just going to do that part a minute, and get that black all full onto that handle there. Okay, so I finished all of the handle on the scythe, and what I've done is use the same colours as the flames to do the whip and the pennant on that scythe there. So there's the Cairn Wraith completely finished, ready to go onto the coach. So the next parts that need to be done is the basing. And well, I've got a lot of ideas for that basing now, so I will do a video of that basing as I do it, with the different ideas, see what works, see what doesn't work. So hopefully that one will be with you soon. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm going to put a photo at the end of the coach as is, as it is now, before that basing goes on, so you can see the Cairn Wraith attached then to the coach itself. Right, hope you've enjoyed, and until the next video, stay safe and happy wargaming.